Hi, this is Imre Galambos, Professor of Chinese at the University of Cambridge. And this video is about whether as a young scholar you should spend your time and energy on conferences or on writing. Is presenting at conferences useful at all? Or should you put all your efforts into writing? If this is something you're interested in, then keep watching. But before that, please remember to hit the subscribe and like buttons to help the channel grow, and to be notified when new videos come online. It is undeniable that to succeed in an academic environment, you need to publish. Research and writing in general are a basic part of your daily life, and will continue to be so until you're on this path. But sharing your research on academic conferences or workshops is just as much part of the academic experience as writing. You will be frequently asked to present your research in front of audiences, and if you're invited to give a talk, there may even be an honorarium. But when you're just starting out, there are not so many invitations, and there is of course no honorarium. Instead, you present on conferences mainly because you make a directed effort to be there. The question is it worth it? Should you spend your time on this at all? After all, even a 15-minute presentation will take up quite a bit of your time. You will have to come up with a topic, write a title and an abstract, apply to participate in the conference, possibly pay membership fees if this is going to be an annual meeting of a large association, and then you may even need to travel there, spend a few days away from home, which also means that you're away from writing. And when you get back, you may even have a jet lag for a few days, disrupting pretty much everything you do. And you may need to apply for travel funds and then spend time filling out forms to get reimbursed for the expenses. And then we have not even begun to talk about the actual time you need to prepare the presentation and to practice presenting it in a way you think it should be presented. So a brief 15-minute presentation may require an investment of quite a bit of time and resources, making it much less obvious whether it's a good idea or not. One thing we can agree on from the very beginning is that writing should be your top priority, especially if you're still working on your dissertation or on your first article or book. So in these cases, it's obvious that you should prioritize writing. Still, this does not mean that you should shut yourself off from participating in conferences. Writing and presenting are not exclusive categories. Quite to the contrary, they complement each other, or let's say they should complement each other. When you're presenting at a conference, you're sharing your research with others, which can be extremely valuable for you. Because on the one hand, you get feedback, and on the other, you learn how to explain your research in a way that makes sense to others. And needless to say, both of these are tremendously valuable for your writing. Also, you get to connect with other researchers working on similar topics, leading similar lives, struggling with similar problems. You also get to meet in person some senior scholars whose papers you may have already read and who represent the cutting edge of research in your field. And then there's the networking effect. By meeting people in your field, you don't just get to know them, but you also make yourself known to them. And you learn about grant and job opportunities. The discussions during the breaks and dinners are extremely helpful in teaching you not only who does what, but also why they're doing that, and perhaps why they decided not to do it anymore. You can learn so much this way in just a few hours. In other words, conferences can be massively useful, but they take up so much of your time. And the only long-term outcome they leave you with is a line in your CV saying that you presented something at such and such a conference. So what do? Should you attend conferences or not? Obviously, there's a balance here, and you need to find a sweet spot. Because while the first two conferences are going to be an eye-opening experience for you, with the capacity to change the course of your research and land you with contacts that lead to job opportunities, the 15th conference is going to be much less life-changing. It will be just another conference. One sensible thing to do is to mitigate the time-consuming aspect of conferences by choosing the ones that take up less of your time. So instead of traveling to New Zealand for a small graduate student conference, you might find something much closer to where you live. Because the New Zealand one will take you away from writing for at least 2 weeks. You will need to prepare, travel, and in the end you will be hit by a massive jet lag that knocks you out for a few days. By contrast, something that happens in your home university will only cost you 2 days while potentially offering the same benefits. That you may have actually been dying to go to New Zealand is an altogether different matter, and in that case, maybe attending a conference there would be a great idea. But in general, it makes sense to explore conferences near you, either in your home university or somewhere nearby, because you save a lot of time while reaping the same benefits. Again, if there is a conference that is topic-wise a perfect fit for you, and there are scholars that you could potentially greatly benefit from, you may still decide to travel because the benefits outweigh the costs. Having said all this, in general, I would advise you to concentrate on your writing. Conference participation will not earn you much in terms of your CV. It is much more to your benefit to finish your dissertation on time than to be traveling right and left, attending a series of random conferences. As a first choice, go to conferences that are near you, that are organized by people around you, and try to maximize the benefits from those. As for conferences that require travel, you should consider attending them much more carefully, unless you absolutely need to get away from your daily routine to break the monotony or you're struggling with a writing block. So when you come back, you can resume your writing with more energy and creative ideas. The optimal ratio between writing and talking is really quite simple. Working on your dissertation or article should always be your primary task. Conferences should be a supplement to this, something that helps the primary task by providing inspiration and new perspectives, and also by giving you external feedback. So this should always be done to the extent that it's useful to you. Don't overdo it, and don't confuse your priorities. Think about the curve of diminishing returns. The more conferences you go to, the less useful they are. It is the first 2 or 3 that are the most valuable, and after that, each new conference will have much less to offer. This is, of course, only advice if you're an early career scholar. Once you're more established, you'll be asked to present all the time, and you will have to make choices which invitations to accept depending on your own priorities. Perhaps you need feedback on a topic that is part of the new book you're working on, or you're trying to expand your expertise in a new area, or perhaps you want to catch up with colleagues who work on similar topics, or just want to endorse a new initiative or project. But the reasons for attending conferences at the beginning of your career are different. You need to weigh the benefits and the costs, all the while keeping in mind that writing is your core task. It is the activity that leads to tangible outcomes, which are then used to evaluate you as a scholar. Okay, I would also be interested in your take on this subject, so let me know if you have any comments. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.